I didn't stop calling my parents because I got busy. I stopped calling because one day I realized every ring was just me volunteering to be used again. My name is Madison. I was 18 when I won a $3,000 scholarship that was supposed to be my first real step out of my parents' gravity. It wasn't a huge amount. It wouldn't pay for a whole semester. But to me, it was proof that I could earn something on my own, something that didn't come with strings, guilt, or a lecture about how I owe them for breathing. I still remember the email. I was sitting at my tiny desk in my childhood bedroom, the one with the uneven carpet and the window that's stuck in winter. My laptop fan was whining, my hands were shaking, and when I read congratulations, I actually laughed out loud like a person who believed good things could happen. I ran downstairs and found my mom in the kitchen. She had a dish towel over her shoulder and that distracted expression she always wore, like life was constantly interrupting her. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "I got the scholarship." She blinked. "What scholarship?" "The one I applied for in March," I said. "The Community Foundation. It's $3,000. For a split second her face softened. Then I saw the calculation happen. Not pride math. She set the dish towel down. $3,000, she repeated slowly. "Okay. Good." Then she added too quickly, "We'll need that." My stomach tightened. "Need it for what?" I asked like I didn't already know the answer. Like I hadn't spent my whole life watching any money that came near me get redirected into whatever crisis my parents were carrying that month. Mom sighed, already tired. "Madison, don't start," she said. "The car insurance is behind. The electric bill is insane. And your dad's hours got cut again." She said it like my scholarship belonged to the household the second it existed, like it was a relief fund for adults who always had an emergency but never had a plan. "But it's for school," I said. "It's literally a scholarship. They send it to me." Mom's eyes narrowed. "And who pays for your food? Your room? Your phone?" There it was. The invoice of parenthood. Always waiting in her back pocket. "I have a job," I said quietly. "And I'm going to college in August." "This is for textbooks, fees," she cut me off. "You can use the library. You can borrow books. We can't borrow money we don't have." My throat went tight. "So you want me to give you the scholarship?" Mom threw her hands up. "I want you to contribute," she snapped, and her voice made contribute sound like confess. "You live here. You're part of this family." Family. In my house, that word didn't mean love. It meant obligation. I tried to stay calm. "It's $3,000, I said. "It's not going to fix everything." Dad walked in right then like he'd been summoned by tension. He had grease on his knuckles and that tired slump that used to make me feel sorry for him. "What's going on?" he asked. Mom pointed at me like I was the problem. "Madison got some scholarship money," she said, dripping sarcasm, "and apparently she thinks she should keep it." Dad's eyebrows lifted. "Scholarship? $3,000, Mom said. Dad whistled softly. "That's nice, kid." Then he looked at Mom. "We could catch up the bills." My stomach dropped. Even my dad, my quiet dad, the one who barely spoke, was already spending it. "It's for college," I said again, louder, like volume could make them hear what they were choosing. Mom's voice went sharp. "College is a privilege, Madison. The electricity is a necessity." I felt heat rise in my face. "So my future is optional, but your overdue bills are my responsibility?" Dad's expression hardened. "Watch your tone," he warned. Mom leaned in, eyes cold. "We're not asking," she said. "We're telling you. That money will come into this house. You can do the right thing and hand it over, or you can learn what life is like when you're not supported." Supported. The word made me want to laugh. Because support in my family meant we will keep you dependent so we can keep you useful. I looked from Mom to Dad and realized something sickening. They weren't negotiating because they didn't believe I had a choice. They believed I was property. Fine, I said, because I was 18 and scared and I didn't have a backup plan yet. How? Mom's face relaxed like she'd won. The check will come to you, she said. When it does, you sign it and give it to me. I'll deposit it. Every cell in my body wanted to scream no. But I nodded anyway because that's what I'd been trained to do: nod, swallow, survive. Check arrived 2 weeks later. A thick envelope from the foundation, my name printed clean on the front like I mattered. I held it for a long time before opening it, like maybe if I delayed, the outcome would change. When I finally tore it open, the check was inside. $3000 payable to Madison Hart. My hand shook. I could practically see my textbooks, my dorm bedding, the small freedom I'd been dreaming about. Mom appeared in the doorway like she could smell paper money. Is that it? She asked. I didn't answer. I just stared at my name on the check, like memorizing it would make it harder to erase. Come on, Mom said, impatient now. We don't have all day. I swallowed and signed the back. Pen felt heavy. My signature looked wrong, like it belonged to a stranger. Mom snatched it the second I finished. Good, she said, already turning away. Now we can breathe. I stood there in my room, empty-handed, and realized they didn't just take my money. They took the moment I thought I'd finally earned something for myself. And the worst part? A week later, when I asked what bills it covered, my mom said, "Don't interrogate me. You gave it as a contribution. Contributions don't come with receipts." That was the day something in me quietly snapped. I didn't fight. Not yet. I just started planning, silently, patiently, how to leave a house where my name only mattered when it was on a check. For the next month, my house felt different. Not louder, not quieter, just heavier. Like the air knew I'd given something away that I couldn't get back. My parents acted like the scholarship was a heroic family sacrifice. Like I'd donated an organ, and now I was expected to smile through the recovery. My mom told people at church, Madison got a scholarship and she gave it right to the family. She's so mature. My dad nodded along like that was the end of the story. Like maturity meant surrender. I stopped correcting them because I could see how much they enjoyed the narrative. It made them look like good parents. It made me look like a grateful daughter. It erased the part where they threatened me. It erased the part where my stomach dropped when I signed my name away. 2 weeks after the deposit, my mom came home with a brand new stainless steel toaster oven. Not a necessity. Not an emergency. A shiny appliance that cost at least a couple $100. She set it on the counter like it was a trophy. We deserve one nice thing, Madison. I stared at it and felt something cold spread through my chest. That wasn't catching up bills. That was spending my future on comfort. A few days later, my dad's friend dropped by and they sat on the porch with a case of beer. I watched from the window as my dad laughed in a way I hadn't heard in months. It hit me in the gut because my parents had framed the scholarship like life or death, and suddenly they had money for little luxuries. They had money for fun. They just didn't have money for me. I started tracking everything because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Toaster oven. The beer. A new set of curtains. My mom's nails done. Little things that added up into the same message. Your needs are negotiable. Ours are not. When August came, I moved into my dorm with 2 duffel bags and a plastic tote. My roommate, Kelsey, showed up with a mini fridge, an air purifier, and matching storage bins that looked like they belonged in a catalog. I laughed like I didn't care. I told myself I didn't need all that. But the first night when I sat on my bed and opened my laptop to the bookstore website, I did care. My required textbooks cost $680. My meal plan wasn't fully covered. My laptop was old and overheating. I had $212 in my checking account and a part-time job that didn't start until the second week of classes. I called my mom, even though I knew what would happen because panic makes you do stupid, hopeful things. She answered on speaker. I could hear the TV in the background and my dad's voice laughing at something. "Hey, Madison, what's up?" Her tone was casual. Too casual for a daughter who was about to cry. "I need to buy my books." I tried to keep my voice steady. "The bookstore estimate is almost $700. I can't do that right now." There was a pause, then my mom exhaled like I was inconveniencing her. "Can't you rent them? Some of them are access codes. Then wait a week." "I can't. Assignments start immediately." My mom's tone sharpened. "Madison, you're at college. Welcome to adult life. Figure it out. Figure it out." The phrase they used like a door slam. "But you took my scholarship." The words slipped out before I could stop them. The room went silent on her end. Then my dad's voice, angry now. "Don't start with that. We needed it." "I need it," I said. My throat burned. "I'm here because I'm trying to do something different." Mom laughed once, short and mean. "You're so dramatic." I felt my eyes sting. "I'm not dramatic. I'm broke." "You want Hawk broke?" Mom snapped. "Try paying a mortgage." "You don't have a mortgage." I blurted because I'd heard my dad complaining that they were renting. The words hung in the air like a slap. My mom went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. "You will not disrespect us." "I'm not disrespecting you," I said. "I'm telling the truth." "The truth is you owe us," she said. "And you're not going to guilt trip us. We already gave you everything. Everything." I looked around my dorm room. 2 bags. A plastic tote. A borrowed desk lamp. "Okay," I whispered because I could feel myself shutting down. "I'll figure it out." Mom's tone softened just enough to feel manipulative. "That's my girl." Then she added like a sweet little blade, "And stop calling me with money problems. It makes you sound ungrateful." She hung up. I sat on my bed for a long time, staring at my phone. Around me, the dorm hallway was alive with laughter and music and people who still believed their parents wanted them to succeed. I got up, walked to the student center, and found the financial aid office. The woman behind the desk had tired eyes and a kind voice. She looked at my file, asked me a few questions, and said, "We can increase your work-study hours. It won't be much, but it will help." I nodded like I could breathe again. I took more shifts. I worked weekends. I sold my old prom dress on Facebook Marketplace for $60. I skipped meals sometimes and told myself it was intermittent fasting. Every time I felt like calling home, I remembered my mom saying, "Stop calling me with money problems." So I stopped. Not all at once. First, I just called less. I stopped sending little updates. I stopped chasing their approval. I stopped trying to make them proud with good news because good news turned into a bill. Meanwhile, my mom kept calling, but only when she needed something. "Can you check on your dad's insurance form? Can you come home and help with the garage? Can you babysit your cousin's kids at Thanksgiving? Never, are you eating? Never, do you need anything?" By winter break, I went home and felt like a guest in my own childhood. My room had been turned into a storage space. My mom joked about it. "You're hardly here anyway." The dinner, she bragged about the toaster oven again. "Best purchase we made all year." I stared at my plate and thought, "You mean best purchase Madison made." That night, I lay in bed on an air mattress because my old bed was gone and I finally understood something. They didn't take the scholarship because they were desperate. They took it because they could. 'Cause I was the easiest place to pull money from. And as long as I kept calling, kept explaining, kept hoping, they would keep pulling. So I made a quiet decision in the dark. I would finish college without them. And one day, when they asked why the phone went silent, I would tell them the truth. and not to hurt them, to finally stop hurting myself. Spring semester hit like a wave. Not because classes were harder, but because my exhaustion finally stopped pretending to be temporary. I was working 3 evenings a week at the campus library, plus weekends at a coffee shop off campus. I'd study in the quiet hours between shifts with my highlighters and a cheap granola bar, telling myself this was just the season I had to survive. Everyone around me complained about roommates and professors. I complained about my bank balance. I complained in my head because saying it out loud felt like admitting I'd been abandoned by the people who were supposed to care. My mom still called sometimes, but it was always transactional. Madison, I need your student ID number for the insurance form. Madison, can you mail the old tax letter? Madison, your aunt needs help with her laptop and you're good with computers. When I didn't answer immediately, she'd text, hello. Then, are you ignoring me? Then, this is so disrespectful. I learned to let those messages sit. The guilt still flared up, but it didn't control me the way it used to. I started noticing how my body reacted to them. My shoulders would tighten. My stomach would twist. My brain would race to write an apology I didn't know. So I created a new rule. I would not respond to pressure. I would respond to respect. And because respect wasn't their language, my phone became quieter. In March, the Scholarship Foundation hosted a small appreciation dinner for donors and recipients. It was optional, but the email said there would be networking opportunities and I needed every advantage I could get. I borrowed a black blazer from Kelsey, curled my hair in the mirror of our dorm bathroom, and went. There were round tables with white cloths and little plastic centerpieces. I felt out of place, but I smiled anyway. A woman with kind eyes introduced herself as Mrs. Lang, one of the volunteers. "You're Madison Hart, right?" she asked. "Your essay stood out." My throat tightened. "Thank you," I said. "That scholarship really mattered." She nodded. "It's why we do it." Then she added casually, "Did you ever send the thank you letter to the donor?" I blinked. I thought the foundation handled that. She looked at me gently. "We usually encourage the students to write directly too. Makes a difference." I swallowed. "I can do that." She smiled. "Wonderful. And how are your classes going?" Something in me almost cracked because no one had asked me that in months. "Good," I said. "Hard but good." She squeezed my arm. "That's what we love to hear." On my walk back to the dorm, the night air felt cold and clean. Kept thinking about her question. The donor. Thank you letter. The scholarship. The fact that my parents had treated it like household cash. The fact that I had never even gotten to say thank you because the money never stayed with me long enough to feel real. That night, I opened my laptop and searched the foundation's website until I found the donor list for my award. The name was there. A local business owner. Someone who believed in education enough to put real money behind it. I stared at the screen and felt heat in my face. I drafted a thank you letter anyway. Not because it would change the past, but because I needed to reclaim the story. "Dear Mr. Whitaker," I wrote. "Thank you for believing a student like me could build something." I didn't mention my parents. I didn't mention the toaster oven. I just wrote the truth about what the award was supposed to mean. As I typed, I realized something. My parents took the $3,000, but they couldn't take the fact that I earned it. They couldn't take the fact that someone else saw value in me without asking what I could do for them. And that thought made me sit up straighter. A week later, my mom called at 10:38 p.m. I was in the library trying to finish a paper, my eyes burning from the screen. I let it ring. Then she called again. Then she texted. "Pick up." I didn't. The next text came fast. "This is an emergency." That word used to freeze me. It used to yank me back into their orbit. Now it just made me suspicious. I stepped into the hallway and called my dad instead. He answered on the second ring and he sounded normal. Not panicked. Not breathless. Just annoyed. "Hey, kiddo," he said. "Your mom's upset. What's the emergency?" I asked. There was a pause. "The internet's acting up," he admitted. "She needs the password for the router." My jaw clenched. I stared at the wall, feeling something inside me go very still. "So it's not a real emergency," I said. "It's an inconvenience." My dad sighed like I was being difficult. "Madison, don't make it a thing. Just help your mother." That old pressure tried to rise in me, but I held it down. "Text me the model of the router," I said. "I'll send instructions." "She wants you to call her," he said. "She says you've been distant." I almost laughed. "She told me to stop calling her with money problems," I said. "So I stopped calling." Silence. Then my dad cleared his throat. "She didn't mean it like that." He said it the way people always say it, like words don't count if the speaker is uncomfortable with the consequences. "She meant, stop stressing her out." I felt my eyes sting, not because I was sad, but because it was so clear. My stress was a burden. Their stress was a family mission. "I'm going back to studying," I said. "Text the router model." I hung up. 10 minutes later, my mom sent a message. "You're so cold lately." I stared at it, then typed one sentence. "I'm tired of being useful only when you need something." She didn't respond for hours. Then at 1:12 a.m. she wrote, "After everything we've done for you." There it was again. The invoice. The eternal bill. I didn't reply. I finished my paper. I turned it in. I went back to my room and slept like someone who had finally stopped running. Over the next few months, my calls didn't stop completely. They just became rare. And when I did call, I didn't share my wins. I didn't share my fears. I didn't share myself. 'Cause every time I shared, it became leverage. By summer, I landed a paid internship. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real money and real experience. When I got the offer, I almost called my mom out of reflex. Then I remembered the toaster oven and the way her voice sharpened when I asked for textbooks and I didn't. I told Kelsey. I told Nora. I told Mrs. Lang. And they celebrated me like my life belonged to me. My parents found out anyway because my aunt saw a post I made about starting my internship. The next day, my mom called sweet as sugar. "Madison," she said, "I heard your good news. I'm proud of you." My throat tightened. I didn't trust it. "Thanks," I said carefully. She hummed, pleased. "So," she continued, "since you'll have money coming in, we need to talk about helping out again." The air in my lungs went cold. There it was. Praise, then a handout. Every time. "No," I said. One word. "Clean." My mom's voice snapped. "Excuse me." "No," I repeated. "I'm paying my own bills and I'm saving for school." She inhaled sharply. "You are unbelievable," she said. "Do you even care about this family?" I held the phone away from my ear for a second, then brought it back. "You took my scholarship," I said quietly. "And when I needed $700 for books, you told me to figure it out." I did. "Don't ask me to fund your life again." My mom went silent, then did what she always did when she couldn't win on facts. She went for character. "You're ungrateful," she said. "You've changed." "I've grown up," I answered. "And I'm not signing my future away anymore." She hung up. I stared at my phone and felt my hands shaking. Not because I regretted it, but because it was the first time I'd spoken plainly without apologizing. That night, I wrote in my notes app a sentence I didn't want to forget. "They will call you ungrateful when you stop being profitable." And once I wrote it down, it felt like a lock clicking into place. 'Cause if the price of peace was being called selfish, then fine. I'd rather be selfish than trapped. The summer internship changed my life in a quiet way. Not because it made me rich. It didn't. Paid just enough to make me feel what it's like to breathe without checking my account every hour. I worked in a small marketing office downtown, 3 train stops from campus. I learned how to write copy that didn't sound like a robot, how to sit in meetings without shrinking, how to smile at clients who said quick change like time was free. I also learned something else. The second my parents sensed I had income, they treated me like a faucet again. Like all they had to do was twist the right emotional handle and money would come out. The first real test happened in July. I was halfway through my shift when my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Call me now." I stared at it, then at the time. 2:14 p.m. I was literally in a meeting taking notes. I ignored it. 2 minutes later, she texted again. "This is serious." My heart tried to sprint. That old conditioning still lived in my bones. Serious meant drop everything. Serious meant if you don't pick up, you are a bad daughter. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and called my dad first. He answered like nothing was wrong. "Hey, kid." I felt my anger flare. "What's happening?" I asked. He paused. "Your mom's upset. She says you haven't been checking in." "Not an emergency. Control check." I pressed my fingers to my forehead. "So nothing's wrong," I said. "Madison," he warned. "Don't do that." "Don't do what?" I asked. "Don't call a guilt trip serious." He sighed. "You know how she is." I hated that sentence. "You know how she is." It was always said like a law of nature, like her behavior was weather. Like my job was to carry an umbrella forever. I went back to the meeting, but my focus was gone. Through work, I called my mom because part of me still hoped there was a version of this where she heard me. She picked up on the first ring. "Finally," she snapped. "I was starting to think you forgot you have a family." "I was at work," I said. "So?" She made it sound like work was a hobby. "When you're a mother, you don't get to clock out." I swallowed hard. "What did you need?" I asked. Her tone shifted, softer, almost sweet. "We're a little behind," she said. "Just until your dad's hours pick up again. We only need 800. 800. She said it like it was nothing. Like it wasn't my grocery money, my train pass, my book fund. "No," I said. There was a beat of silence, and then her voice went sharp. "Excuse me." "No," I repeated. "I'm paying for my school. I'm paying my rent next month. I'm saving." My mom laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Saving?" she mocked. "For what? You already got your free money." My stomach dropped. Free money. She was talking about the scholarship. The scholarship she stole. "It wasn't free," I said quietly. "I earned it." She ignored that. "We're not asking for the scholarship," she said, as if she was being generous. "We're asking for help. Help. If you've ever dealt with this kind of person, you know how they do it. They rename taking into helping. They rename control into concern. They rename your boundaries into selfishness." "You took the scholarship," I said. "And you never even told me what you used it on." "How dare you?" she snapped. "I kept a roof over your head. I fed you. I raised you." The invoice again. Always the invoice. "And when I needed books," I said, "you told me to figure it out." So I did. I figured it out without you. My mom went very quiet, and when she spoke again, her voice was poison. "So this is your revenge," she said. "You're punishing us." I almost laughed. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm just not funding you. She made a sound like she was swallowing rage. Fine, she said. Then don't call us when you need something. I felt a strange calm settle in my chest. I don't, I replied. I haven't. The silence on the line stretched. She didn't know what to do with the truth when it didn't come wrapped in pleading. Then she switched tactics. Your father is embarrassed, she whispered like she was telling me a secret. He hates asking. You're humiliating him. I didn't humiliate him, I said. I said no. Same thing, she spat. You've changed, Madison. You used to be sweet. That word again. Sweet. In my family, sweet meant compliant. I took a deep breath. I'm still kind, I said. I'm just not available. She hung up. I stood in my tiny kitchen, staring at the dark screen of my phone, and I realized I wasn't shaking the way I used to. I was tired, but I wasn't collapsing. That was new. 2 days later, my aunt texted me. Your mom says you're refusing to help and your dad is stressed. Call her. I didn't respond. My grandma, who rarely got involved, called and left a voicemail. Honey, your mother is hurt. Families don't keep score. I listened to it twice because it stung. Then I opened my notes app and wrote another sentence. They call it keeping score when you finally notice the scoreboard. In August, I moved into my first off-campus apartment with 2 roommates and a lease in my own name. It was small, noisy, and smelled faintly like someone's old cooking oil. But it was mine. The first night, sitting on the floor with takeout, I felt something close to happiness. Then my mom found out because my cousin tagged me in a photo. Within an hour, I got a text. So you can afford an apartment, but you can't help your parents. Wow. I stared at it, and a memory hit me so sharp it made my eyes sting. The scholarship check in my hands. My mother snatching it. Her saying, now we can breathe. And then the toaster oven. I typed one message back, slow and careful. You took the money that was supposed to help me start my life. I'm starting it anyway. Please stop asking. She replied instantly. You are so ungrateful. I didn't answer. That was the moment the phone started going silent. Not because I was playing a game. 'Cause I was done explaining my humanity to people who only respected my usefulness. And once I stopped feeding the dynamic, something strange happened. My life got bigger. Not in a flashy way. In a real way. I started making friends who didn't ask what I could do for them first. I started sleeping through the night. I started eating meals without guilt. And the quieter my phone became, the more I realized how much noise had been keeping me trapped. By the time I turned 21, my parents had a new story. They told people I was distant. They told people college changed me. They told people I was too good for them now. They never told people they took my scholarship. They never told people they threatened me. They never told people they called me ungrateful for needing textbooks. But the truth has a weird way of catching up, especially when you stop covering for it. 'Cause when you stop calling, people start asking why. And sooner or later, someone would ask me. Not my mother. Not my father. Someone who actually wanted the truth. The first time the truth slipped out, it wasn't during a fight. It wasn't dramatic. It was almost casual, which somehow made it worse. It happened at my cousin's baby shower in October. I only went because Grandma begged, and because I still had that little hopeful part of me that thought if I show up enough, they'll eventually treat me like a daughter instead of a resource. Community center was decorated in pale blue balloons, and there was a table covered in tiny cupcakes with plastic rattles on top. Everyone was smiling too hard, the way families do when they want pictures more than peace. My mom walked in like she owned the room. She hugged people, laughed loud, and introduced herself as if she was hosting. She didn't come over to me right away. That was her move. Make me chase. Make me prove I still wanted her. I didn't. I stayed near Grandma, helping her sit, holding her little plate, pretending the noise didn't make my skin crawl. Then Aunt Denise cornered me by the punch bowl. She looked at me with that squint that meant she was about to say something loving that would feel like a slap. "So," she said, "your mom says you never call." I took a slow breath. "I'm busy," I said. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. Denise tilted her head. "Busy. Or mad." She said it like she was joking, but her eyes were sharp. I shrugged. Both can be true. She laughed once like I was adorable. "Honey, families fight. But you don't just disappear. Your parents did so much for you." There it was again. The script. I could have recited it for her. I could have finished her sentence. I stared at the punch bowl, watching the floating fruit slices drift around like they had nowhere to go. "Did they tell you why I'm mad?" I asked softly. Denise blinked. "Because they asked for help and you said no." She said it like she already decided I was the villain. My chest tightened. The room felt hot. The baby shower music sounded too cheerful, too fake. I looked up and saw my mom across the room watching me. She wasn't smiling. She was waiting. She wanted to see if I'd defend myself or fold. Something in me hardened. "They didn't ask for help," I said. "They took something from me." Denise's eyebrows lifted. "Took what?" I swallowed. I wasn't trying to start a war, but I was so tired of carrying their story for them. "When I was 18, I won a $3,000 scholarship," I said. "They made me sign it over. They said if I didn't, I'd learn what life is like without support." Denise's mouth fell open a little. "No," she whispered. "They used it for bills." I continued, voice steady now. "Then when I needed books, they told me to figure it out. So I did. And after that, they only called when they needed things." Denise stared at me like I'd changed the color of the room. "Madison, are you serious?" she asked. I nodded. Dead serious. My mom started walking toward us immediately. I could see it like a storm front. Her smile was back on, but it was the kind that showed teeth. "What are we talking about over here?" She chirped too loud. Denise looked between us, uncomfortable. "Madison just told me about the scholarship," Denise said. "The one you used." My mom's smile twitched. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand like it was a silly memory. "We were in a tough spot. Madison was living at home. She wanted to help." Wanted. Help. She turned theft into generosity in one breath. My stomach flipped. "I didn't want to," I said quietly. My mom's eyes snapped to mine. "Madison," she warned, soft and sharp. Like I was a dog she could train with a tone. Denise swallowed. "Did you threaten her?" she asked, sounding like she couldn't believe her own question. My mom let out a laugh that was too bright. "Threaten," she repeated. "Please." Madison has always been dramatic. She twists things. Dramatic. There it was, the same word she used the night I cried over textbooks. She turned to me, smiling like a saint. "Why would you bring up old stuff at a baby shower?" she asked. "You're trying to embarrass me." I felt my face go hot, but my voice stayed calm. "You embarrassed yourself," I said. "I'm just not lying anymore." My mom's smile vanished. "You are unbelievable," she hissed. "After everything we've done for you." I stared at her and realized she was still using the invoice. She still believed motherhood was a contract and I was in default. Denise looked like she wanted to disappear. People nearby started to notice. Grandma turned her head, worried. My mom leaned closer to me, still smiling for the room, but her words were poison. "You better stop," she whispered, "or you'll regret it." I looked at her and felt something inside me go very still. "I already regretted it," I whispered back. "For years." Then I stepped away. I walked over to Grandma, kissed her cheek, and said, "I love you. I'm going to head out." Grandma grabbed my hand, her skin thin and warm. "Honey," she whispered. "What's going on?" I hesitated, because I didn't want to dump this on her. But she deserved the truth more than anyone. "They took the scholarship, Grandma," I said softly. Her eyes widened. "They took your school money." She said it like she couldn't fit the idea into her heart. I nodded once. Grandma's mouth tightened, and for the first time in my life I saw anger on her face, not at me, but for me. "Go home," she said. "Get some rest." My mom followed me toward the exit, still trying to look calm. Once we were near the door, she dropped the mask. "You think you're so grown now," she snapped. "You think you can poison the family against me." I turned and looked at her. "You poisoned it when you taught everyone my boundaries are betrayal," I said. My mom's nostrils flared. "You owe me an apology," she demanded. I shook my head. "No," I said. "You owe me the truth." "I don't owe you anything," she spat. And that sentence hit me like clarity, 'cause it proved everything. She didn't see the scholarship as wrong. She saw it as hers. She saw me as hers. I walked out of the baby shower and into the cold air, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, but my head clearer than it had ever been. In my car, I sat with the steering wheel under my palms and realized something important. I had spent years trying to explain myself privately, kindly, carefully. And it never worked. 'Cause they weren't confused. They were comfortable. The only thing that changed anything was sunlight. And now the truth was in the room, whether my mom liked it or not. That night, my phone started blowing up. Aunt Denise. Cousins. My dad. My mom. The family group chat that I hadn't spoken in for months suddenly woke up like a monster. My mom wrote, "Madison is making up stories for attention." My dad wrote, "Call us. We need to talk." Someone else wrote, "This is not the time." I stared at the messages and felt my chest tighten. The old me would have jumped in, apologized for the mess, tried to smooth it over. The new me just took a screenshot. Then I did the one thing I'd never done. I typed one message to the group, short, factual, and impossible to twist. I won a $3,000 scholarship at 18. I was pressured to sign it over. When I needed $680 for books, I was told to figure it out. I did. Please stop calling me ungrateful for protecting my future. Then I muted the chat. Not because I didn't care. 'Cause I cared about myself enough to stop arguing with people who only wanted me quiet. And for the first time, the silence that followed didn't feel like punishment. Felt like peace. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and one voicemail from my dad that started with a sigh and ended with a threat. "Madison, call us back. This is getting out of hand. You cannot go around telling people lies about your mother. If you do not fix this, do not expect to be welcome here." I replayed it twice. Not because I needed to hear it. 'Cause I needed to believe it was real. 'Cause for years my parents had been able to rewrite reality by saying it louder. This time they were trying to do it again, just faster. I sat on the edge of my bed in my little apartment, stared at my phone, and felt the old instinct kick in. Fix it. Smooth it. Be the good daughter. Make the group chat quiet. Then I remembered my mom's face at the baby shower. The way she called me dramatic like it was a spell. The way she said I wanted to help. I knew if I called, it would not be a conversation. It would be a correction. They would not ask, "Did we hurt you?" They would ask, "How do we make you stop?" Till I decided I would answer one person. Not my mom. Not my dad. Grandma. I called her and she picked up right away like she had been waiting. "Honey," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. "Are you okay?" I swallowed. "I am shaken," I admitted. "I did not mean to blow things up." Grandma made a sound that was almost a scoff. "No," she said. "They blew it up when they took your school money." My throat tightened. "They are saying I am lying," I whispered. Grandma's voice sharpened. "Madison, I have known your mother since she was a little girl. She has always been able to make herself the victim. That does not make you a liar." I sat there, blinking hard. "Everyone is texting me," I said. "They want me to apologize." Grandma sighed. "They want you to be quiet," she said. "Apology is just the price they charge you for peace." That sentence landed so hard I had to hold the phone away from my ear for a second. "What should I do?" I asked. Grandma paused. "Do not argue in circles," she said. "If you talk in facts. If they cannot handle facts, that is not your job." After I hung up, I did something I had never done before. I opened a folder on my laptop called Madison. I created a document titled Scholarship Timeline. Then I pulled up my old email, found the scholarship congratulations message, and saved it as a PDF. I found the foundation letter that came with the check, scanned it with my phone, and saved that too. I wrote down the date it arrived. I wrote down the date it was deposited. I wrote down the exact words my mom used when I asked for books. Figure it out. The way my hands shook while typing told me everything. This was not petty. This was survival. 'Cause when you grow up with people who rewrite reality, proof becomes oxygen. That afternoon, my dad showed up at my apartment. No warning. Just a knock that sounded like entitlement. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. He stood there with his arms crossed, jaw tight, like he was about to discipline a child. I did not open the door. I spoke through it. "Dad, what are you doing here?" His voice was controlled, which in my family meant dangerous. "Open the door," he said. "We need to talk. We can talk like this," I said. He exhaled hard. "Madison, stop acting like I am some stranger." "Then stop showing up like I am," I replied. There was a beat of silence. Then he said the line that always used to work. "Your mother is crying." I felt the guilt try to rise, hot and fast. I forced myself to breathe. "Is she crying because she regrets taking my scholarship?" I asked. "Or crying because people know?" My dad's voice sharpened. "You do not get to talk about your mother like that." "Then she should not talk about me like I am a liar," I said. He leaned closer to the door. "You embarrassed her," he hissed. "In front of family. You made her look like a thief." I blinked. "Dad," I said slowly. "If she did not want to look like a thief, she should not have taken it." He went quiet. Not because he agreed. 'Cause he did not have a better argument. Then he switched to authority. "You are coming home for dinner tonight," he said. "We are settling this." My heart pounded. "No," I said. "We can talk another day." His voice rose. "Madison, do not do this." "I am not doing anything," I replied. "I am saying no." He laughed, short and bitter. "No," he repeated. "You learned that word at college. I learned it when you took my money and called it love," I said, and my own voice surprised me. My dad's breathing got louder. "You think you are so smart," he snapped. "Let me tell you something. Your mother and I sacrificed everything for you. We fed you. We housed you. We did our job. You do not get to hold one check over our heads like we are criminals." I pressed my forehead against the door, eyes closed. "It was not one check," I said. "It was the pattern. It was the threats. It was the way you all decided my future was optional." My dad's tone softened in a fake way, like he was bargaining now. "Okay. Fine," he said. "We could have handled it better. But you do not air family business. You do not put your mother on trial at a baby shower." I opened my eyes. "So it is not about what you did," I said. "It is about where people heard it." He did not answer, which answered everything. Then he tried a new tactic. "You know what?" he said. "If you want to be independent, be independent. But do not come back asking for help. Do not expect anything from us." I felt something settle. Not fear. Relief. "I do not," I said. "I have not." My dad's voice turned colder. "Then why do you keep attacking us?" "I am not attacking you," I replied. "I am telling the truth. There is a difference." He stood there a moment longer, like he was waiting for me to crack. When I did not, he said, "Fine," in a voice that meant punishment, and walked away. I watched him through the peephole as he disappeared down the hall. My hands were shaking so hard I had to sit on the floor. That night my mom posted a long message on Facebook. She did not name me. She did not have to. It was full of vague pain and fake wisdom. Sometimes children forget the hands that fed them. Sometimes they become cold and selfish and call it boundaries. Praying for healing. Comments poured in. "You are an amazing mom. Kids these days have no respect. Stay strong." I stared at it and felt my throat burn. Not because strangers believed her. 'Cause she was still doing what she always did. Turning herself into the victim and me into the villain, so she never had to answer one simple question. "Why did you take it?" I did not comment. I did not fight in her arena. I did not beg for fairness from people who liked drama more than truth. Instead, I did something small and final. I blocked her. Then I blocked my dad. Then I blocked the cousins who kept texting family is family like it was a law. The silence after that felt terrifying for about 30 seconds. Then it felt like my nervous system unclenched. For the first time in years, my phone did not own me. 2 weeks later, Grandma invited me to lunch. Not at my parents' house. Not at a family event. Just her and me at a little diner with worn booths and coffee that tasted like comfort. She slid an envelope across the table before our food came. "What is this?" I asked, immediately anxious. Grandma waved her hand. "Open it," she said. Inside was a cashier's check. $1,000. My breath caught. "Grandma, I cannot take this," I whispered. Her eyes narrowed. "Yes, you can," she said. "It is not charity. It is me doing what your parents should have done." Tears burned my eyes. "I do not want you in the middle," I said. Grandma leaned forward. "Honey," she said, voice low, "I have been in the middle for years. I just did not want to admit it." I swallowed. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, even though I knew. Grandma's voice softened. "Because I watched you become the responsible one in a house full of grown-ups who acted like children," she said. "And I am done pretending that is normal." I held that check like it was something sacred. Not because of the money. 'Cause it was the first time an adult in my family had offered me support without an invoice. When I got home, I put the check in my drawer and stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote Grandma a thank you note that was not polished, not cute, just honest. "You made me feel like I am worth helping. I wrote, "Not because I pay, just because I exist." A month later, right before Thanksgiving, my dad emailed me from a new address. One sentence. "Your mother wants to know why the phone is silent." I read it twice. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so perfect. They took my $3,000 scholarship like it was owed. They called me ungrateful when I needed books. They tried to humiliate me into obedience. They posted about me like I was a stranger. And now they wanted to act confused that I stopped calling. That was the moment I realized part of the story was not just leaving. It was answering that question. Not with anger, with clarity. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it. I didn't reply to my dad's email right away. I stared at that one sentence. "Your mother wants to know why the phone is silent." It was like watching someone stand in the rain and ask why they're wet. Like they genuinely couldn't connect cause and effect unless it benefited them. I opened a blank document and typed a title at the top. Reasons. Then I deleted it. Because this wasn't a list. This was my life. This was a pattern that had been normalized so long my parents thought it was love. If I answered them emotionally, they would do what they always did. They would grab the emotion and use it as proof I was unstable. If I answered them softly, they would do what they always did. They would treat softness like permission to push. So I decided my response would be factual. Boring. Unarguable. Like a receipt. Because receipts don't care how much you cry at the counter. That night I wrote my mom a letter. Not an email. A letter. Something slow. Something I could read back to myself and not feel ashamed of later. I started with the truth. "Mom, the phone is silent because every time I called, I was taught my voice only mattered when it solved your problems." I paused. I rewrote it. I made it clearer. "The phone is silent because when I needed help, you told me I was dramatic. When you needed help, you called it family." I kept going. I wrote about the scholarship check. I wrote about signing it in my bedroom while my hands shook. I wrote about the threat. You can do the right thing and hand it over, or you can learn what life is like when you're not supported. I wrote about the books. The $680. The way she told me to figure it out. The way she told me to stop calling with money problems because it made me sound ungrateful. I wrote about the toaster oven. Not because the toaster oven was the crime. 'Cause it was the proof. Proof that the crisis was not always crisis. Sometimes it was preference. Sometimes it was comfort. Sometimes it was spending my future because they felt entitled to it. I wrote about her Facebook post. The vague pain. The way she recruited strangers to shame me so she wouldn't have to answer one question. "Why did you take it?" Then I stopped and stared at my screen because I realized something. I wasn't writing to convince her. I was writing to end the loop in my own head. I finished the letter with the boundary. "I will not be in contact with you if the relationship requires me to be useful, silent, or financially available. If you want a relationship, it has to include accountability. Not blame. Not guilt. Not threats. Accountability." I read it back and my chest felt tight but clean. Like scrubbing out an old wound so it can finally heal. The next morning I printed it, folded it, and put it in an envelope. I didn't mail it immediately. I kept it on my counter all day like a test. Could I hold my line without panic? Could I choose myself without apologizing? That evening, my dad called from another new number. I didn't answer. He texted right away. "Madison, this is ridiculous. Just call your mother." There was no concern, no curiosity, just command. I stared at the message and felt the old pressure creep up my spine. Obey. Fix it. Make the house quiet. Then I thought about Grandma's words. Apology is the price they charge you for peace. Typed one sentence back. I will not return to a relationship built on threats. Then I blocked the number. 20 minutes later, my aunt emailed me. Your mother is sick with worry. You are breaking her heart. I almost replied with a paragraph. I almost explained again. Then I realized they weren't asking what happened. They were assigning me a role. Villain. Ungrateful. Cold. The role mattered more than the truth. So I didn't respond. I took the envelope and walked it to the mailbox at the end of my street. The metal was cold under my fingers. I slid the letter in and listened to it drop. It felt like dropping a weight I didn't even realize I'd been holding. 2 days passed. Then 3. No response. Not even a rage message. Not even a denial. Just silence. And that silence told me more than any argument ever could. If she had been confused, she would have asked questions. If she had been remorseful, she would have apologized. If she had wanted me as a person, she would have reached for me as a person. The silence meant she didn't want a relationship. She wanted compliance. She wanted the old version of me back. The version that called even when it hurt. The version that paid and then smiled. Then, on the 4th day, I got an email from my dad's original address. A long one. It started with, "Your mother cried for hours." Mentioned respect. Mentioned loyalty. Mentioned how I was making them look bad. Did not mention the scholarship. Did not mention the threat. Did not mention the books. It did not mention the words "I'm sorry." I read it once and felt my stomach go calm because the confusion was gone. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a system. And they were mad the system stopped working. That night I sat on my couch with a cheap blanket, listened to the hum of my refrigerator, and thought about how my parents kept asking the same question. Why did you stop calling? As if silence was something I did to them, not something I chose for myself. And I realized the real answer wasn't one sentence. The real answer was a pattern of thousands of small moments that all said the same thing. Your worth is what you provide. So the first time in my life, I gave myself a different message. My worth is that I exist. The phone stayed quiet. Not because I was punishing them. 'Cause I was finally protecting me. And as the weeks went on, I started noticing something I never expected. Without their constant noise, I could actually hear my own life. I could hear my friends laughing. I could hear my own thoughts without panic. I could hear my future. And it sounded like freedom. Thanksgiving came and went without me sitting at their table. I spent it at Grandma's diner booth instead, the same one where she slid that envelope across the table like she was handing me permission to matter. Grandma didn't decorate. She didn't force tradition. She just ordered 2 plates of turkey, asked the waitress for extra gravy, and looked at me like I wasn't a problem to solve. Halfway through the meal, she said, "Your mother called me." My stomach tightened. Grandma lifted a hand. I did not let her perform. She said it like a boundary was a normal thing. What did she say? I asked. Grandma took a sip of coffee. She said you are being influenced. She said you are cold. She said you are punishing them. Grandma's eyes narrowed. I asked her one question. What question? Grandma leaned forward. I asked her why she took your scholarship. My throat went tight. Grandma shrugged. She changed the subject. Of course she did. Grandma reached across the table and patted my hand once. Honey. Confusion is loud. Guilt is loud. People who are sorry usually try to fix what they broke. Your mother is quiet because she does not want to look at her own hands. I stared down at my plate, blinked hard, and felt something unclench in my chest. That night, back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and looked at my calendar. Finals. Internship applications. Rent due. All the normal stresses of a young adult trying to build a life. And for the first time, none of those stresses were tangled with my parents' demands. The silence they threatened me with as punishment was now my refuge. Over the next year, my life kept moving. Not magically, not perfectly, but steadily. I graduated. I walked across that stage without seeing my parents in the crowd, and it hurt for about 5 seconds. Then it didn't because I saw Grandma in the second row, clapping like her hands were made for pride. I got a job offer 2 weeks later, entry-level, decent benefits, a salary that felt unreal compared to my coffee shop tips. My first instinct was still to call my mom, to hand her my good news like an offering. Then I remembered the way she treated my scholarship. I remembered how good news became a bill. So I called Grandma instead. "I got it," I said. Grandma laughed. "Of course you did," she said, like she never doubted it. The day I moved into my own place, a small one-bedroom with creaky floors and too much sunlight, I sat on the floor with a slice of pizza and realized I was waiting for the other shoe. Waiting for my mother to appear in the doorway and claim a piece of it. Waiting for my father to tell me I owed him. Waiting for that old fear to pull me back. But it didn't. My phone stayed quiet. Not because they respected me, because they couldn't control me anymore. Around that time, my mom tried a new tactic. She didn't call. She didn't text. She sent a Christmas card. It was glossy, with a family photo I wasn't in. My parents, my cousins, my aunt, all smiling in matching sweaters like a catalog. Inside, my mom wrote, "We miss you. Call sometime." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an invitation to return to the role. I stared at it and felt sadness rise, but also clarity. Missing me wasn't the same as valuing me. Missing me meant missing what I did. Missing the version of me who made their lives easier. If I called, the first thing she'd ask would not be, "How are you?" It would be, "When are you coming home?" And then, "Can you help with something?" So I didn't call. I wrote "Return to sender" and dropped it back in the mail. Felt harsh. It also felt honest. A few months later, my dad showed up again, but not at my apartment this time. At my work. He waited outside the building like a man in a movie who thinks he deserves a scene. When I stepped out, I saw him and froze. He looked older than I remembered. Not frail. Just worn down. He held his hands up like he was harmless. "Madison," he said. My heart pounded. "Why are you here?" I asked. He swallowed. "Your mother misses you. Do you?" I asked, and my own voice surprised me. He blinked. "Of course," he said quickly, like it was obvious. I nodded once. "Then answer this," I said. "Why did you let her take my scholarship?" My dad's face tightened. He looked away toward the street. "We were stressed," he muttered. "We needed help." I let the silence stretch. "So you needed my help," I said. "But when I needed help for books, you told me to figure it out." My dad's jaw clenched. "You know your mother," he said like it explained everything. I felt my chest go cold. "That's not an answer," I said. He exhaled, frustrated. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "I want you to stop pretending you are confused," I said quietly. "You are not confused. You are uncomfortable. There is a difference." He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. The old Madison would have cried, apologized, offered a compromise. This Madison stood there and waited. Finally he said, "Your mother thinks you are doing this to hurt her." I almost laughed. "I am doing this to stop hurting me," I replied. My dad's eyes flickered. For a second, I saw something like regret. Then it hardened. "So that's it," he said. "You are just done." I took a slow breath. "I am done being used," I said. If you ever want a relationship that is real, you know where to find me. But I will not come back to the old rules. He stood there a moment longer, then nodded once, stiff, and walked away. I watched him go and felt a strange grief. Not for what I lost. For what I never had. Parents who saw me as a daughter, not a resource. But grief is not the same as guilt. Grief can exist without dragging you back into harm. That was another thing I learned. A year after the scholarship, I used to think silence meant loneliness. Now I understood silence was the space where my life finally grew. I built routines that didn't revolve around their crises. I built friendships that didn't charge me for belonging. I built a future that couldn't be deposited into my mother's account. And the craziest part, when my phone was finally silent, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. 'Cause the people who truly loved me did not need me to be useful to stay. They stayed anyway. Grandma stayed. Friends stayed. My own self-respect stayed. My parents. They only stayed when I paid. So yes, I stopped calling. 'Cause every ring used to be me volunteering to be used again. And I promised myself I would never sign my name away like that again. Not for $3,000. Not for peace. Not for the illusion of family. I chose my future. And the silence was the sound of me finally choosing myself.